I'm going to show you how to print onto parchment paper using a carrier sheet. So I buy these 8¼ by 11¼ inch parchment paper packs. I find them on Amazon, and they're nice because they're pre-cut, and a letter size piece of paper, which is what my printer takes, is 11 or 8½ by 11. So it's a little bit longer than my printer paper, but it's nice this way, and I can get a nice carrier sheet with it. So I'm just placing it, the parchment, on top of the regular printer paper, and then I'm going to use some packing tape. You can use gift wrap tape. I have a lot of packing tape and I find it easier to dispense, so I'm just going to do that. And I like to work on a desk surface or something that I can stick the tape right to. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm just going to leave a little bit of tape at the top, right? I think you can see that. So there's the parchment, the printer paper, and then I've grabbed a bit of the parchment with the tape, but not a whole lot. And then I'm going to fold over the tape on the back. And I'm going to trim off these little tails. I try to trim them fairly close. And I have found by my experience and experimentation that my printer likes to have it taped on 3 sides. Some printers don't need it taped that way. You'll have to test and see how your printer needs it to be taped. So again, just leaving, like overlapping it a little bit with the parchment paper, and I stick it right to the desk and then pull it up. And I don't go all the way down on this because I'm going to trim off the bottom of this overlapping parchment paper. And I always leave a tail at this top this time so that I get a nice clean edge instead of these raggedy edges that the dispenser will give me. And then just trim off the tail. And that sheet is just about ready. I just need to trim off the excess here. So you could trim this beforehand with a nice paper cutter, but I'm just gonna take away the parchment paper when I'm transferring anyway, so it really doesn't matter what the bottom looks like. So this sheet has enough space within the middle to print my 6x6 image. And then when I put it into the printer, I put it in 1 sheet at a time. And I do a couple of prints just to make sure that I have a backup in case something happens to the first one. And also know that the image on the paper will be a little bit delicate. So don't, go and crumple it and put it in your book bag. Try to maybe put another sheet of printer paper over top to keep it nice and safe for transporting to the studio. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do using rice paper to make on a carrier sheet. So this is a plain piece of paper, and then I have my rice paper. So rice paper has a smooth side and a textured side. Really doesn't matter what side you print on. These are obviously way too big. So I'm gonna cut, how am I gonna do? I'm gonna lay this down this way. And the best way to cut rice paper is actually with water, but I'm just gonna use scissors today. So I'm just kind of lining it up. I'm gonna take off that excess with a pair of scissors. And I'm just cutting inside the fold so that the fold isn't on the carrier sheet. And it doesn't have to be completely perfect. We're gonna trim the edges of this sheet when we go to make our painting. So the carrier sheet is a little bit larger than larger than the rice paper. And again, I need to tape on 3 sides. So I'm going to tape the top first. I always find it's easier to tape the top because it's the shortest edge. So lay it flat. I always work on a desktop so I can tape right to the desk and peel it up. And this is an office desk rather than my studio desk because my studio desk is very messy. So this is a nice clean tabletop. And I'm just going to trim the ends. These little tails that come with the tape. And I always leave a little bit of overlapping tape to make these tails so that I get a nice clean edge. And then my printer needs to have it taped on 3 sides. So on this second side and the third side, I'm going to overlap this way a little bit and make a tail. And then I'm not going to bring the tape all the way down because I need to cut this off. Oops. Cut off that tail. Piece of tape's a little long, so I'm going to let the tail be quite long. Try not to get wrinkles, but if you do, it's really not that big of a deal. Well, for my printer, it's not that big of a deal. Some rice paper will just go through your printer. You can test that, but just know that if something wrong happens, that it will catch around the drum of the printer. So there's that one, and I'm just going to trim off the bottom here. Again, you can use a paper trimmer to trim all your paper beforehand if you are so inclined. So this is my rice paper, so it's the rice paper is slightly smaller than the carrier sheet, which is taped on 3 edges for my printer. You'll have to test with your printer. So that's ready to go too. So I always do a test print to see what it looks like on the paper and make sure that I have enough on the edges for my carrier sheet. So this one, this is my test. And I forgot to set the image to grayscale. I'm not sure why it was taken in grayscale, but I'm not sure why my computer thought it should be something else. So after I realized that, because it's kind of bluey in spots, I changed it in Photoshop. And then, so this is my print on my parchment paper. So it's the delicate one, because we're going to use this toner that's sitting on top of the parchment to transfer onto the wax. And then this is the rice paper one. And sometimes I find that my rice paper gets a little jagged in the printer. That's why I have to tape on all the sides, well, except for the bottom, just so that it's nice and taut. And so you'll have to just play around with that a little bit. So this one we're going to put directly into the wax rather than transfer. And then if you bring them on the carrier sheet, and I'll show you how to take them off. And just when you, to store them, just put something over top of that one. This one's okay, the ink is right, or the toner is right into the paper. But don't fold them or anything like that. Just put them like this into like a file folder or an envelope and bring them to class.